Hi, and welcome back to Rolling Hills Soul Care Podcast. My name is Jazzy. I'm here with Chuck. Hi, Chuck. How are you doing?
I'm doing well today.
I realized on our last podcast, I did forget the most important thing to do. And I know that you were really excited because you thought maybe on our hiatus I'd forgotten about Get to Know Chuck at the beginning of these podcasts. But I think it's time that we return and we get to know a little bit about Chuck.
I was hoping.
I know.
You had forgotten.
Okay, so I have probably maybe the most random question I could come up with. And by I could come up with, I mean ChatGPT could come up with. Chuck, when you were a kid, did you have a favorite stuffed animal or toy? And most importantly, what was its name?
Oh, see, now you're going to find out that Chuck did not have stuffed animals.
Oh, no. Chuck, did you play with rocks and sticks and dirt in the backyard?
Well, it was so old, yes. Me and my friend Grog.
You and Tuck out in the backyard.
With our rocks. And, I don't think I had stuffed animals. That just note here. Oh, that was a long time ago. First of all, but I had things like a little fire chief truck, or a little pedal, pedal type of car.
Oh, like you could ride in this thing?
Yeah.
Oh, and that's so much cooler.
I had a fireman's hat, and that was a big deal to me. Cowboy hat. I grew up in the Roy Rogers, Dale Evans, time frame. So, playing cowboys or fire chief, those types of things were what I did as a kid. So, I have no recollection whatsoever of even one stuffed animal.
So you're saying you used your imagination instead of letting Paw Patrol tell you how to...
There we go. There was no Paw Patrol. Yeah, we watched, it was... anyway, TV was there, but, we didn't watch it very often. I remember, we got our first color TV when I was 10 years old. So most of it was black and white and watching Lassie and other. Anyway, we grew up doing things, playing with neighborhood kids, but I don't think we had. I'm cranking on my memory banks, and besides my fire truck and another push car. Matter of fact, I have a fun memory. When I was 5 years old, we lived in a neighborhood that was relatively new. My parents moved there in 1955. I was born in 54, and the neighborhood itself was a new city that had yet to be incorporated. The city's name is La Mirada.
Okay.
It's down near Anaheim, about 8 miles north of Anaheim.
I was going to ask if it eventually became Disneyland,
but it was just a small neighborhood. The neighbors that are now to our west weren't even there. It was just a dirt lot.
Okay.
But on the 4th of July, we had a parade around our block, down one street, over and back up our street and over. And people decorated their cars, and I rode my fire chief truck pedal car.
This is amazing.
Until my little legs gave out. And then my dad threw that in the back of the station wagon, and we continued the parade. So that's how important my little fire chief wagon was.
That is amazing. And I am fully delighted right now. I feel like I could sit and listen to you tell stories all day, because that's the best. Instead, maybe I'll sit and listen to you share your blog.
We should read about her.
That was spectacular, though. All right, but we're going to return to Soul Care Blogs. This is post 122, right?
Right. Okay. It's called Work in Progress. So here's what I wrote. Between 2003 and 2005, I took many photos of the construction taking place at Rolling Hills as the new part of the building was added. Each month, progress was taking place, and the photos helped me to document that progress for myself. I never looked at the incomplete work and thought to myself, well, those steel beams aren't very attractive. Or, how will people feel about sitting on concrete? Instead, I saw a work in progress. I saw something that was still in the process of being formed into what its designers intended it to be. In a similar way, when I'm working on a document that I know will be reviewed by several people to shape it into its final version, I often include the initials WIP, or Work in Progress, in the title to remind me that this document isn't done. It's still being shaped into its final state. And sometimes, when I'm discouraged or disappointed about my performance or my attitude, God gently reminds me that I'm also a work in progress. That's true of all of us. Even the Apostle Paul, who God used in a mighty way to spread the gospel and write much of what we now call the New Testament, recognized that even he was still a work in progress. In Philippians 3:12 through 14, Paul says, "Not that I have already obtained this, or am already perfect, but I press on to make it my own, because Christ Jesus has made me his own. Brothers, I do not consider that I have made it my own." And while most of us don't tend to think of ourselves in the same category as the Apostle Paul, I think we can all take some comfort knowing that while we're still here on this earth, we're all being shaped, formed, and transformed until that day when we are called into God's presence. In 2 Corinthians 3:18, Paul tells us, "And we all are being transformed into the same image from one degree of glory to another. For this comes from the Lord, who is Spirit." In 1 Peter 2:5, the Apostle Peter says, "You yourselves, like living stones, are being built up as a spiritual house." Peter compares us to stones that are being carefully and precisely shaped in a quarry before being brought to the temple site to be placed into the temple construction. Notice that we are being transformed and that we are being built up. It's an ongoing process. God's not done with us yet, and he won't be done until we meet Jesus face to face. And that's good news, especially on those days when it's pretty easy to look at ourselves and see a lot of room for improvement. So don't beat yourself up. Instead, bring those feelings back to the Lord and trust him to use all of life's experiences to shape you and transform you. And if you begin to get discouraged, remember Philippians 1:16. God began doing a good work in you, and I am sure he will continue it until it is finished when Christ Jesus comes again. God is at work in you. You are his work in progress. Take time to thank him for that this week.
Thank you, Chuck. I think we've established that this is all about me and how I feel about these blogs and the feelings that they bring up in me. So I'm just going to go ahead and ask you a question. Maybe it's not even a question, but I feel like I'm one of those people who I hear everything you're saying. It's awesome. And I love this thing that God has done with us. However, I am a human person and I'm no stranger to the navel gazing, and I'm one of those people, I don't think I'm the only one, who I see the words work in progress, and that's great, but I still look at it and like, nah. I notice all the things wrong with it that need to be fixed and that need to be taken care of, and how come I didn't get that sentence right the first time kind of thing. So you've given us really good verses, and we all know this truth, but how do we keep that in our minds, Chuck, that it's okay, that we're just these little human things?
Well, one, we are human, and that's why I wrote that. You say it's about you. I tell you, and it's the truth. I write these for myself.
Oh, cool. It's about us.
Time.
That's much better.
And that's because we live in a... It's really easy. I'll finish my sentence. We live in a world where it's broken, and it presses on us, and it causes us to make comparisons, and we see things, and we see things and make assumptions about people who they are and how they are, we don't know the truth. We don't know what they're going through. We don't know what it took to get there. But there's a future blog that we'll be reading where we live in a microwave world where we want instant results, and that's not the world. That's not who God created us to be. Mm-hmm. And that was at the heart of why I wrote this, is just to remind us, because I think it requires daily, and sometimes more frequent than that, reminders that this is a lifelong journey. Mm-hmm. And where it's not like we're a work in progress until we reach a certain age. We're a work in progress, period, until Christ calls us home. So when we look at things, I mentioned a couple of things that took time. The new part of the Rolling Hills building mm-hmm. took several years to conceptualize and put on paper, mm-hmm. and then about 2 years to build, which in terms of relative time is not an enormous amount of time. Other things take multiple years to build. There are certain things that were built over hundreds of years, which means that people who started work on them never got to see the end of it. And they had to accept, in that case, that they were part of something that was leading to something that they could picture and knew would be a finished, beautiful product, and it was worth investing in. But they were never going to see it themselves. And when you think about that, I don't know if I'd have your first thought is, I don't know if I'd have the true noble nature to say, I'm willing to invest in something.
I probably wouldn't, I'll be honest.
But, and yet, we actually do that. You're investing in your son. I've invested Mary, our daughters, and now they've got kids. And I'm at the age where I'm able to look at a picture. I keep one on my nightstand. I shared about my trip around the neighborhood, mm-hmm. But there's a picture on my nightstand of my dad and my 4 sisters. My mom was the one taking the picture. I'm about 3 in the picture, and that's right on my nightstand. That's I see that every night and every morning. That's the picture I see. And then I love photos, so I'm surrounded in my house with photos that include me and Mary on our wedding day, and then our kids growing up, mm-hmm. and our kids now with so I love looking, and I just reflect now on when I look at, there's a picture of 15 of us that represents my immediate family, with my daughters and their husbands and the kids, mm-hmm. and I think I remember when we gathered as kids, young marrieds at my parents' home, and they were the central point for celebrations, mm-hmm. and everybody was gathered, and now we're that. And then I start reflecting on I didn't know my dad's side. His parents died before I was even born, but they influenced him and his grandparents before that. I look at genealogies in the Bible and think, these are people who lived a certain way, and in my case, loved God and loved me, and poured into me, and I'm a product that they didn't get a chance to witness. I have no idea what the legacy they created. And so I'm mindful of that now, that I'm also creating a legacy of which I hope I get to see. I hope I get to be a great grandfather. I hope I get to invest in those kids, but then they will have kids, and there, God willing, there will be a legacy that Mary and I leave as a part of, and so I am investing in something that is well beyond my lifetime, that I truly believe will be beautiful, and that's the whole. It's not just the fact that we're continue to have kids and they have kids.
Right.
It's having kids who know and love the Lord and carry that light on into the world. And so that's, when I think about taking time and the transformation process, none of it's done. The fact that we're continuing to do this, God has a predetermined time He's waiting for to return.
Yeah.
Our job is to continue to be faithful, to do our part in that until that time comes. And then that's the cool thing. In heaven, we'll be able to see the patience that we needed and often the impatience that we had. We will get to see the fruit, the full fruit of that. You get to see the full thing, the full picture of it all. We're natural. We're humans, so it's very natural for us to be at times frustrated with what seems like no progress at all. And there's where I think my counsel to most people is just, 1, be patient. 2, take time to look back. Because when we stop and reflect back, we're usually able to see growth.
That's a really good point. Yeah. And even continuing your metaphor just the tiniest bit, like as parents, and you know that I appreciate that, because you're right. We don't really think of that as a conscious investment unless we're looking back. But at no time when you've made that investment and you're looking at your families, at no point during that did you ever look at your kids and be like, oh, why? Like it was never, right. Would you just hurry up? It was always, this is how we are. This is this work in progress. And this is just part of and so I really appreciate that visual, I guess. But no, there's no but. I really appreciate that. You mentioned a couple verses that I think just really illustrate that. So do you mind if we just close by me revisiting those verses?
That'd be great.
Yeah, I'd love to read this because they were important to me to hear, and I know we're in danger of, I'm never supposed to take the Bible out of context and just lift verses out here and there, but I don't know why we can't use these quotes for encouragement in the same way that we use movie quotes for encouragement. Dumbledore had some wisdom. The Bible has a lot, so we're going to quote the Bible instead of Dumbledore. Did I just say Dumbledore in the middle of our podcast, Chuck? I did. Okay. All right. Anyway, 2 Corinthians 3:18, you said, Paul wrote, and we all are being transformed into the same image from one degree of glory to another, because that comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit. 1 Peter 2:5, Peter is writing. He says, you yourselves, like living stones, are being built up as a spiritual house. And Philippians 1:16, I kind of resonate with this one quite a bit. God began a good work in you, and I am sure He will continue it until it's finished when Christ Jesus comes again. I found a lot of encouragement myself in that time of Jesus as opposed to my own timing. Yeah. So Thank you for sharing those with us, Chuck.
Absolutely.
Well, if you would like to read more of Chuck's blogs or interact with him, by all means. We say it all the time, but I'll say them again. You can find those at rollinghills.org/worship, or you can find RH Worship on Instagram, and that link is in the bio. Thank you so much, Chuck.
Thank you, Jazzy. It was good visiting with you today.
Yep. We will see you next time.